The first gunshot shattered the stained glass window before Amelia Hart realized the screaming had begun. Crystal exploded across the marble floor of the Belmont estate. Wealthy guests in designer gowns scattered beneath banquet tables as masked assassins stormed through the ballroom, their rifles sweeping across the glittering room with terrifying precision. Amelia instinctively threw herself over a frightened little girl hiding beside the dessert cart. "Stay down," she whispered, shielding the child with her own body while bullets ripped through towering flower arrangements only a few feet away. She wasn't a bodyguard. She wasn't trained for violence. She was only the newest maid hired 3 weeks earlier. At 28, Amelia had spent her life being overlooked. Her plus-size figure attracted cruel whispers from strangers and dismissive glances from employers who assumed she moved too slowly or lacked discipline. She had learned long ago that kindness demanded more courage than beauty ever could. Working inside one of the richest private mansions in Europe was supposed to be temporary, a chance to pay for her father's medical bills after another factory closure destroyed her hometown. Instead, she found herself trapped in the middle of a massacre. A sharp voice echoed through the chaos. "Protect the boss." Black-suited security agents formed a living shield around a tall man walking calmly through flying glass as if bullets respected him. Matteo De Luca. The name alone silenced politicians and terrified rival syndicates. Head of the De Luca empire. Billionaire. Feared Mafia King. His charcoal suit remained immaculate despite the blood splattering nearby. Cold gray eyes studied every movement around him with frightening calculation. He didn't duck. He didn't panic. He simply raised one hand. 3 assassins fell before Amelia even realized his guards had fired. The attack ended almost as suddenly as it began. Silence settled over the ballroom except for distant cries and broken chandeliers swinging overhead. Amelia slowly released the trembling child. Only then did she notice crimson spreading across her sleeve. Not her blood. Someone else's. She searched frantically until she found an elderly housekeeper lying beside an overturned serving cart. Without hesitation, Amelia rushed over. Years before becoming a maid, she had trained professionally as an emergency trauma nurse. Financial hardship had forced her to leave hospital work, but the knowledge had never left her hands. She tore expensive linen into bandages, compressed the wound, stabilized breathing, and barked calm instructions to frightened staff. "Keep pressure here. Don't move her neck. I need clean towels now." Her voice carried unexpected authority. Even armed guards obeyed. Standing across the ruined ballroom, Matteo watched every movement without speaking. Interesting. Most people froze during bloodshed. She organized strangers. Most employees begged for safety. She protected others first. His chief of security stepped beside him. "Should we question the maid?" Matteo's eyes never left Amelia. "No." "Then dismiss her?" "Not yet." For reasons he couldn't explain, something about her composure disturbed his carefully ordered instincts. Hours later, the mansion had become a fortress. Every servant gathered inside the grand library while security searched for evidence of betrayal. The atmosphere felt heavier than marble. Matteo entered without announcing himself. Conversation died instantly. He walked slowly between rows of frightened employees before stopping directly in front of Amelia. She met his gaze. Everyone else lowered theirs. "You remained inside during an assassination attempt," he said quietly. "Yes." "You ignored orders to evacuate." "I refused to leave injured people behind." His expression remained unreadable. "Or perhaps you stayed to help the attackers." Several servants gasped. Amelia's cheeks warmed, but she didn't look away. "If I wanted you dead," she replied steadily, "I wouldn't have saved 3 members of your household." The room became painfully silent. No one challenged Matteo De Luca. No one. His guards shifted uneasily, expecting punishment. Instead, Matteo stepped closer until only inches separated them. "You speak boldly. I speak honestly. And honesty can be fatal. So can fear." For the first time in years, the feared mafia boss found himself studying someone who neither admired nor feared him. She simply refused to surrender her dignity. A faint smile almost reached the corner of his mouth before disappearing. He turned toward the security chief. "Run a complete background investigation." Amelia swallowed. Then Matteo added words that stunned the entire household. "She stays." Before anyone could react, alarms blared throughout the mansion. A guard burst through the library doors, pale with terror. "Boss," he shouted. "They've breached the underground vault, and whoever opened it knew the security codes." Matteo's eyes darkened. There was a traitor inside his empire. And for reasons he couldn't explain, His first instinct was to make sure Amelia Hart survived what came next. Morning arrived beneath a sky the color of steel, but the De Luca estate never truly slept. Armed guards rotated through checkpoints, armored SUVs rolled silently across the sprawling grounds, and every employee now carried a temporary security badge. Since the assassination attempt, trust had become more valuable than gold. Amelia Hart adjusted the crisp black apron of her maid's uniform and wheeled a breakfast cart down the marble corridor. Around her, whispers followed like shadows. She's only here because the boss took an interest. I heard she's pretending to be brave. She won't last another week. Amelia kept walking. People had underestimated her entire life. She had learned that quiet consistency outlasted cruel opinions. As she entered the private dining room, Matteo De Luca was already reading intelligence reports while sipping black coffee. Sunlight streamed through towering windows, illuminating the scars across his knuckles. Silent reminders that his empire had never been built with signatures alone. Without looking up, he asked, "You slept." "Enough. You don't seem frightened." She placed his breakfast on the polished walnut table with practiced precision. "I am frightened." That answer finally made him lift his eyes. But fear doesn't excuse abandoning responsibilities. Something unreadable flickered across his face. Most people tried to impress him. She simply answered truthfully. Over the following days, Amelia quietly became indispensable. She reorganized the estate's medical supplies after discovering expired emergency kits hidden inside the infirmary. She created detailed injury response checklists for the household staff, trained frightened servants in basic first aid, and calmly treated 2 guards injured during a security drill. When one young bodyguard collapsed after ignoring a deep knife wound, Amelia stitched and stabilized him before the estate physician even arrived. "You probably saved his life," the doctor admitted. The compliment spread quickly. Not everyone appreciated it. Bianca Romano, the glamorous director of household operations, watched Amelia with growing resentment. Elegant, ambitious, and desperate for Matteo's approval, Bianca considered the new maid an embarrassment. "A servant should know her place," Bianca remarked loudly during lunch. Amelia smiled politely. "My place is wherever I'm needed." Several staff members hid their smiles. Bianca did not. Late that evening, Matteo reviewed surveillance footage in his private office. Instead of examining Amelia's background file, he found himself replaying recordings from the medical wing. She moved with confidence under pressure. Her voice never rose. Her hands never trembled. Even frightened people relaxed when she spoke. His security chief, Lorenzo, entered carrying fresh intelligence. No criminal connections. No financial irregularities. Her record is clean. Matteo closed the file. "I know." Lorenzo hesitated. "Then why continue investigating?" "Because people like Amelia Hart are rare." "Rare?" "They help others when nobody is watching." For the first time in years, Matteo found himself respecting someone who expected nothing from him. The feeling was unfamiliar. And dangerous. Meanwhile, hidden beneath the estate, someone else watched. A hooded figure sat inside the surveillance control room after midnight, studying security camera feeds. One screen lingered on Amelia organizing medical supplies. Another showed Matteo silently observing her from an upstairs balcony earlier that afternoon. The figure copied encrypted files onto a small drive before disappearing into the darkness. The betrayal was already growing roots. 2 days later, Amelia carried fresh linens toward the east wing when she noticed something unusual. A maintenance door, normally secured with biometric locks, stood slightly open. She frowned. Inside, faint voices echoed through the narrow service corridor. "Shipment arrives tomorrow night." The rival syndicate already transferred the payment. Once the vault opens again, De Luca is finished. Amelia's heartbeat quickened. She recognized neither voice. Carefully stepping closer, she accidentally brushed an old metal bucket. It clanged against the floor. Silence. Absolute silence. Then footsteps. Fast. She ran. The dim corridor twisted through the mansion's hidden service passages as heavy boots thundered behind her. She clutched the folded linens against her chest, turning sharply around a corner just as a suppressed gunshot shattered a light fixture beside her head. Glass rained across the stone floor. Someone inside Matteo's own estate wanted her dead. She burst through a concealed doorway into the main hallway and nearly collided with Matteo himself. He caught her before she fell. His hand steadied her trembling shoulders. "Amelia." She struggled to catch her breath. "They're inside," she whispered. "Someone is working with the rival syndicate." I heard them discussing the vault, and they're coming after me. Mateo's expression turned colder than winter. He looked toward the dark service corridor where unseen footsteps had already vanished. Slowly, he drew the custom pistol beneath his tailored jacket. Then he reached for Amelia's hand, not out of romance but protection, and positioned her behind him. From this moment, he said in a voice that silenced the hallway, you don't take another step alone. Far beyond the estate walls, a convoy of black armored vehicles crossed the city limits. The rival syndicate had begun its move, and the war for the DeLuca Empire was no longer approaching. It had arrived. The first explosion shook the DeLuca estate just after sunset. A fireball erupted outside the eastern security gate, sending chunks of reinforced concrete across the driveway. Alarms screamed through the mansion as armed guards rushed toward their defensive positions. They're breaching the perimeter. Mateo DeLuca's command center erupted into controlled chaos. Surveillance screens flashed with images of black armored vehicles crashing through the outer barricades while heavily armed mercenaries poured onto the grounds. The rival syndicate had come to finish what they had started. Mateo slipped a bulletproof vest beneath his tailored jacket and checked the magazine of his custom pistol. His expression never changed. Lorenzo, defend the West Wing. Seal every tunnel beneath the estate. His steel-gray eyes found Amelia standing near the operations room doorway. You stay inside the panic room. She met his gaze without flinching. And if your people start bleeding? You are not a soldier. No, she replied quietly. But I know how to keep soldiers alive. For one brief second, neither of them spoke. Then Mateo gave a reluctant nod. Stay behind my security team. Outside, gunfire erupted like thunder. Bullets shattered the mansion's towering windows as attackers flooded the gardens. Guards returned fire from stone balconies while armored SUVs blocked the circular driveway. Amelia followed the emergency medical team toward the grand entrance just as two injured bodyguards staggered through the smoke. One collapsed at her feet. A bullet had torn through his shoulder and blood soaked his uniform. Pressure bandages. Amelia ordered, dropping to her knees. The terrified assistants froze. Now. Her calm authority snapped them into motion. She packed the wound, controlled the bleeding, and stabilized the guard before directing another team toward additional casualties. Years of trauma nursing returned effortlessly, every decision precise despite the deafening gunfire surrounding them. Suddenly, an explosion ripped through the west corridor. The ceiling partially collapsed. Dust swallowed the hallway. Boss, someone shouted. They're inside. Masked gunmen burst through the smoke. The firefight became immediate. Mateo fired with terrifying precision, dropping one attacker before spinning behind a marble column as bullets splintered expensive woodwork. One assassin slipped past the guards. His rifle pointed directly toward Amelia. Time slowed. Mateo saw it. Without hesitation, he sprinted across the open hallway. He grabbed Amelia around the waist and pulled her behind a stone staircase just as automatic fire shredded the wall where she had been standing seconds earlier. Fragments of marble rained over them. For the first time since they had met, Mateo's calm mask cracked. Are you hurt? I'm fine. His hands remained on her shoulders another moment, almost as if confirming she truly was alive. Before either could speak again, Lorenzo stumbled into the hallway, clutching his side. Blood poured through his fingers. Amelia reacted instantly. He needs surgery now. There isn't time, Lorenzo groaned. There has to be. The estate physician had been trapped in the collapsed medical wing. Amelia became the only trained trauma specialist available. Inside a secure conference room hastily converted into an emergency clinic, she directed guards and staff with unwavering confidence. Boiling water. Sterile equipment. Portable medical lights. Improvised surgical instruments. Even Mateo assisted without question, holding medical supplies while Amelia removed bullet fragments and controlled severe internal bleeding. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, Lorenzo's pulse stabilized. The room released a collective breath. The physician, having finally reached them, examined Amelia's work in stunned silence. You saved him, he said. Most surgeons would have struggled under these conditions. Mateo looked at Amelia differently. Not with curiosity. Not with gratitude alone. With absolute certainty. She wasn't simply protecting his household anymore. She had become essential to its survival. Hours later, the attack ended. Several attackers escaped. Too many questions remained unanswered. The traitor still lived somewhere inside his organization. Near midnight, Mateo stood alone on the mansion's rooftop terrace overlooking the city lights. He heard soft footsteps behind him. Amelia approached carrying 2 cups of hot tea. "I thought coffee might be too strong tonight," she said gently. He accepted the cup. For a while they stood in comfortable silence. "I've buried people I couldn't save," Amelia admitted quietly. "Every patient reminds me why I became a nurse." Matteo stared across the skyline. "I stopped counting the people I've buried years ago." The confession surprised even him. "I don't usually speak about them." "You don't have to. But I want to." His voice carried a weariness few had ever witnessed. "They fear me because I never hesitate." She looked at him. "And who protects the man everyone depends on?" He turned toward her slowly. "No one." The answer lingered between them. Without warning, Matteo removed a velvet box from his coat pocket. Inside rested an elegant platinum bracelet set with a single sapphire. "It belonged to my mother," he said. Amelia's eyes widened. "I can't accept something so valuable." "This isn't payment." "Then why?" "Because today you reminded everyone in this house that life is worth fighting for." His voice softened. "And because you deserve to wear something as remarkable as the woman wearing it." Her breath caught. No one had ever looked at her that way. Not with pity. Not with obligation. With genuine admiration. As Matteo carefully fastened the bracelet around her wrist, their eyes met beneath the moonlight. The distance between them disappeared. Neither moved away. Just before their lips could close the final inch, a sniper's laser sight settled silently across Matteo's chest. Amelia saw the crimson dot first. Her heart stopped. Someone was still hunting the Mafia boss. The crimson laser vanished the instant Amelia shoved Matteo sideways. A deafening crack split the night. The sniper's bullet grazed Matteo's shoulder instead of piercing his heart, shattering a stone pillar behind them. Security teams flooded the rooftop within seconds, but the assassin had already disappeared into the darkness beyond the estate walls. 3 days later, despite the attempted assassination, Matteo refused to cancel the annual De Luca Foundation charity gala. "If we hide," he told his inner council, "our enemies have already won." The grand ballroom, painstakingly restored after the previous attack, glittered beneath crystal chandeliers once again. International business leaders, politicians, charity directors, and the heads of powerful mafia families filled the luxurious hall. Women shimmered in couture gowns dripping with diamonds. Men wore handcrafted tuxedos worth more than most cars. Whispers spread as Amelia entered. Gone was the simple maid's uniform. She wore an elegant midnight blue designer gown that flowed gracefully around her curves instead of hiding them. Her platinum bracelet sparkled beneath the lights, while her confidence transformed every step into quiet elegance. Some guests stared. Others whispered, "That's the maid." "Impossible. She looks like she belongs here." Bianca Romano's smile tightened. "Clothes don't change where someone comes from," she muttered. Amelia overheard the remark but continued walking with calm dignity. Matteo descended the grand staircase moments later. The ballroom fell silent. Instead of greeting foreign dignitaries first, he walked directly toward Amelia. Every camera turned. Every conversation stopped. Without hesitation he offered his arm. "You'll stand beside me tonight." Gasps rippled through the room. No servant had ever stood beside the head of the De Luca Empire during a formal gala. Amelia hesitated only briefly before accepting. "I hope I won't embarrass you." Matteo looked at her with complete certainty. "You never could." Together they crossed the ballroom. The symbolic gesture echoed louder than any speech. Former critics lowered their eyes. Bianca could only watch as the position she had wanted for years belonged effortlessly to someone who had never sought it. Later that evening, Matteo convened a private meeting with regional captains and trusted allies in the estate's executive conference hall. Massive digital maps covered the walls. Financial reports, shipping routes, and security intelligence filled the polished table. Several senior captains frowned when Amelia entered. "Boss," one of them protested, "this discussion is for family." Matteo answered before Amelia could. "She is." The room became deathly quiet. As arguments regarding missing shipments and compromised accounts intensified, Amelia quietly studied several financial summaries left open on the table. Something felt wrong. She requested permission to examine them more closely. One captain laughed. What could a maid possibly understand about offshore transactions? Amelia ignored him. Years spent managing emergency hospital logistics had taught her to recognize unusual supply patterns and manipulated records. Within minutes she noticed repeated transfers disguised as medical equipment purchases. "They're laundering money through humanitarian shipments," she explained calmly. These invoices were altered after approval. Someone inside your finance division is feeding resources directly to the rival syndicate. Silence. Matteo reviewed the documents. Every figure matched perfectly. Lorenzo stared in disbelief. We've searched for this leak for months. The laughing captain suddenly looked nervous. Too nervous. Before anyone could react, he pulled a concealed pistol and fired. Chaos erupted. The traitor sprinted toward a hidden exit while armed guards returned fire. Matteo's expression became ice. Take him alive. The chase barely began before every light inside the mansion suddenly went dark. Emergency generators failed. Communications vanished. Then explosions rocked the estate from 3 different directions. The rival syndicate had coordinated everything. Smoke poured through shattered windows as dozens of masked mercenaries stormed the property. Guests screamed. Children cried. Gunfire echoed through marble corridors. Someone grabbed Amelia from behind. A cloth soaked with chemicals covered her mouth. She fought fiercely, driving her elbow into one attacker's ribs before twisting free exactly as she had learned during hospital security training. But another assailant struck the back of her head. The world spun. Her vision blurred. She saw Matteo fighting through waves of attackers, desperately trying to reach her. Amelia. His voice cut through the chaos. She reached toward him. Their fingertips almost touched. Then a stun grenade exploded between them. White light swallowed everything. When Matteo forced his way through the smoke seconds later, Amelia was gone. Only her sapphire bracelet remained on the blood-stained marble floor. He picked it up with trembling hands. For the first time since inheriting the De Luca Empire, the man feared by entire criminal organizations looked completely broken. Across the city, inside an abandoned industrial warehouse, Amelia slowly regained consciousness. Her wrists were bound. Facing her stood the smiling architect of every betrayal, Bianca Romano. You were never supposed to survive that first attack, Bianca whispered coldly. But now you'll help destroy the only man foolish enough to believe you deserve to stand beside him. Amelia lifted her head despite the pain. She had no weapon, no allies, and no way of knowing that Matteo had already declared war on everyone responsible. The city was about to burn. Rain poured over the abandoned industrial district as dozens of armored SUVs surrounded the warehouse. Headlights cut through the darkness while Matteo De Luca stepped from the lead vehicle wearing a black tactical suit beneath his tailored overcoat. Around him, the Empire's most trusted soldiers checked their weapons in absolute silence. His order was simple. Bring Amelia home. The assault began with a deafening explosion that blasted open the warehouse doors. Smoke flooded the entrance as De Luca's elite guards surged forward. Gunfire erupted from every level of the building. Rival syndicate mercenaries fired from steel walkways, but Matteo advanced through the storm with frightening precision. Every pull of the trigger brought another enemy crashing to the floor. Inside a locked office, Amelia heard the battle growing closer. Her wrists were tied, but Bianca had made one mistake. She had left Amelia alone beside a medical emergency kit intended for injured guards. Using the edge of a metal clamp, Amelia carefully cut through the restraints. Instead of fleeing blindly, she examined the room. A computer displayed the warehouse's security network and the remote controls for explosive charges planted beneath the building. Bianca and the rival syndicate planned to destroy the warehouse with everyone inside, including their own men, to eliminate all evidence. Amelia immediately disconnected the detonator's signal, rerouted the electronic locks, and activated the emergency fire suppression system. Thick clouds of harmless foam erupted through the corridors, reducing visibility for the kidnappers while revealing their movement to Matteo's thermal goggles. The balance of the battle changed instantly. They've lost control of the building, Lorenzo shouted through the radio. Matteo smiled for the first time that night. That's Amelia. Moments later he found her unlocking terrified hostages from another storage room. You came, she whispered. There was never another ending. Before they could embrace, Bianca emerged from the shadows holding a pistol against Lorenzo's head. Drop your weapons. Everyone froze. Bianca laughed bitterly. You chose a maid over people who spent years earning your trust. Matteo's voice remained calm. I chose the only person who never betrayed me. Bianca fired. Amelia reacted instantly, pulling Lorenzo aside. The bullet struck her upper arm instead of his chest. Matteo's restraint vanished. He disarmed Bianca in one swift movement before security officers arrested her and the surviving conspirators. Across the warehouse, the rival syndicate leader attempted to escape through an underground tunnel, but Lorenzo intercepted him with the remaining guards. The war ended before sunrise. Every traitor was captured. Every conspiracy was exposed. The DeLuca Empire survived because one courageous woman refused to surrender. Weeks later, the estate no longer felt like a fortress built on fear. It felt like a home. Matteo invited every employee, ally, and member of his extended family into the restored ballroom where the story had begun. The shattered stained glass windows had been replaced, not to erase the past, but to remind everyone what they had overcome together. Standing before them all, Matteo reached for Emilia's hand. "You entered this house as a maid," he said, his voice carrying through the silent room. "You protected strangers before you protected yourself. You reminded hardened men that compassion is strength. You saved my family, my friends, and my empire." His gray eyes softened. "You once asked who protects the man everyone depends on." He smiled gently. "The answer has always been you." He knelt on one knee and opened a velvet box holding a breathtaking diamond ring. "Emilia Hart, you never needed to become smaller to fit into my world. You made my world better by being exactly who you are. You are beautiful. You are brilliant. You are more courageous than anyone I have ever known. Will you stand beside me, not behind me, as my wife and my equal?" Tears shimmered in Emilia's eyes. "Yes," she whispered. The ballroom erupted into applause. Months later, their wedding united allies who had once been enemies. Emilia continued overseeing the DeLuca Foundation's international medical relief programs while advising the family's humanitarian operations. The people no longer called her the maid. They called her their queen. Together, she and Matteo ruled not only with strength, but with loyalty, justice, and compassion, proving that the greatest power is found in the people who refuse to abandon one another. And somewhere beyond the mansion walls, their story became a reminder that true love is never about changing who you are. It is about finding the person who sees your worth from the very beginning. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tell us in the comments, what was your favorite moment and which Mafia romance should we bring to life next?